Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. This video is actually going to be a time lapse of the entire renovation that I did on this horse trailer. I think it was probably a year and a half ago. It was for a very special client of mine. I'll tell y'all more about her later, but for now, you can see how bad this horse trailer was. So I know this looks like an RV, very similar, all the same components. So if you're looking for RV renovations, this is also going to be very similar to it. But this horse trailer, the entire floor was rotted out. The good news about horse trailers is most of the time the living quarters, their floors are aluminum. So that's really the only reason that I can walk on this without falling through the floor. The ceiling was also pretty water damaged. There's a couple panels that are really yucky, and then there's some framing that I need to repair, which I will get into all of that. But this is really the before. So you can see it's old. It's yuck, it's dirty, lots of water damage, lots of things falling apart. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Also, as a side note, if you see something that you're really particularly interested in any of these videos, I do have them slowed down with more in-depth explanation on how I did certain things on my channel. If you'll look on, it's a horse trailer renovation and it's 1 through 18. So 1 is the very beginning and 18 is the last episode or the last part where that's the final reveal. So really anything in between there, you can kind of judge where we are on the video based on that. But I do have a whole lot more in-depth stuff on all of the other videos broken down. All right, so first things first is I have to take everything out. And when I say everything, I mean everything, because this entire floor is rotten. So essentially everything needs to come out of the living quarters, and I'm going to take the flooring up and see just how bad it is. I have an idea of how bad it is, but I want you guys to see too, because it's actually, it's something. All right, it's something. And if you're curious why I'm taking this out so easily, a lot of people think that RVs are made well. Well, maybe nobody thinks that. Some people think that, but it's really not. It's really just 1/4 or 1/8 inch paneling that is stapled into 3/4 inch framing. And that's pretty much how they built everything. So all of this is going to come up. We got the water tank, that right there. I'm just going to clip all the electrical because I'm going to come back to that later. Same thing with all of this electrical for the furnace. All of that I'm going to clip. Same thing with the water pump right here. I'm going to clip that, and I end up having to redo some of these water lines anyway. Water tank's going to come out. Water tank is disgusting. Okay, I don't think anybody emptied this. There was like mold and things growing in this water tank, which you'll see later when I end up dumping it out, but it was so gross. It's also very heavy, but I do end up cleaning all of this out because horse trailers typically have bigger water tanks because they need water for the horses. So that's why the tank is so much bigger than you would find in a regular RV. Anyway, super heavy, so I'm going to start letting that drain. All of this kitchen stuff is going to go too. I'm not saving any of this. Well, actually, I'm going to save the stove right there because my client actually wanted it for another project she has, and I told her, hey, I'm just throwing this stuff in the dump anyway. So if you want it, you're more than welcome to have it. Stove comes out, pretty much just take a couple screws off, unhook the propane line, and that's that. Obviously, I get this comment every time. Yes, there's no propane hooked up to this horse trailer, and there's no power hooked up to this horse trailer, and the battery is also not hooked. 1, because the terminal corroded, so it can't be hooked up anyway, and 2, yes, I just did disconnect the one that is not corroded. So yeah, safety first, guys. Now some of the stuff I am saving. The face frames, I saved the face frames, but pretty much rebuilt everything else. So anything that you see that looks like a face frame, I'm probably saving it. I am not saving, well, actually, I will say I was going to save the fridge, but the fridge did not work. And so I ended up not saving the fridge, but that's a story for later. So this is me just disconnecting the fridge here. There is just some connections right here, and then you can unplug it. There's a propane line, and then the whole thing just slides out. Not really a whole lot of complicated processes included in taking the fridge out. Now, thing I really like about horse trailers is that they have a lot of storage in the back. So I can put all of the stuff that I have on the living quarter side over in the stall side, which is great because I can just pull things out as I need it. I don't have to take up all the space in my shop. I don't have to worry about it getting dirty and dusty from cutting things in my shop. So anyway, absolutely love it when I can do horse trailer renovations because it's just so convenient. Okay, so now that you know what the plan is, that I'm taking everything out, while you watch me do that, I want to explain to you why this client is so special to me. So I say client, but she's really one of my friends. Her name is Becky, and she owns North Carolina Wheel Works over here in Wendell, where I live. She is absolutely amazing. She owns her own business. She does pretty much anything tire related, wheel related, axle related, whole 9 yards, whole bunch of different things for horse trailers, campers, regular trailers, all of those really good things. She has actually done the brakes on my fifth wheel. She's absolutely incredible. I can't say enough good things about her. She sends a lot of clients my way because she does horse trailers all the time. And so when she sees one that needs work on their roof or interior or whatever, she sends them to me. So she is absolutely incredible. I love, love, love the clients that she sends to me. She loves Jesus just as much as I do, which is so important because if you guys have watched my channel at all, you know how much I love Jesus. And so she's just a like-minded, really amazing person. And she makes such an impact for Christ on the world through her business. And I hope to be like her when I grow up one day. And some of you may know about what happened with Hurricane Helene last year. And I actually had the opportunity to go up there and serve in Western North Carolina to help rebuild with Baptist on Mission. And it was very, very humbling to see all of the things that were going on and just to hear all of the testimonies from the people that experienced that tragedy. And in the time that happened, Becky was up there almost every week. I mean, she committed so much of her time to going and helping rebuild and help pull people out of the worst moments of their lives. And that really made an impact on me as her friend and her, I guess, just sister in Christ. I mean, it was absolutely incredible to see her serving response to that. So she has a very special place in my heart. I absolutely love her and can't say enough good things about her. So if you have a trailer that needs your brakes done, go see her, North Carolina Wheel Works in Wendell, North Carolina. Okay, so that's my friend Becky. That's who this is for. As you can see, I have torn most of this out. I'm sorry about the lighting. It's funny because I think I need to mess with the settings on my camera, and I'm almost pretty sure I said that in the slowed down version of this because it was like bright, dark, bright, dark, bright, dark. Anyway, it's all about the sun and the angle, so I need to mess with my camera settings more. But as you can see, most of it is coming out. There was some water damage on the ceiling here that I had to fix, and I don't know if you can kind of see it, but some of these cabinets were really just trash. So this cabinet right here, the other one that I just took off, I ended up throwing those away. I had to rebuild it completely. This one was a little annoying because it had a whole bunch of electrical in it. It's a weird spot to put the electrical, but it had pretty much all the electrical for the entire trailer in that one area. This is the bathroom. So the bathroom is going to be completely remodeled. I'm not saving anything from this. Actually, that's a lie. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm saving one face frame from the big cabinet, but everything else I'm rebuilding it. So, the shower, it's kind of like a little corner shower, what it was before. It's not going to be that in the end. It's going to be the biggest walk-in shower I can put. So here comes the ants, guys, because everybody knows that with water damage comes ants. So many ants. And there was one wasp that kept flying in here, and it was really annoying me. You can kind of see it like fly in and out. But anyway, as you can see, I'm pulling it down one by one, spraying more, pulling it down, spraying some more. There were so many ants in here. And if I would have known there was this many ants, I probably would have bombed it first before I did this. And again, spray, spray, spray. My husband is a farmer, and so in that spray bottle, he put the good bug and ant killing stuff in it, which is why I'm wearing a mask, because it's toxic. So anyway, he gave me the good stuff, sprayed it all over. Just a side note, if you're ever curious, if you don't kill the ants and you put them in their yard, they'll make nests in your yard. So don't be me, because I've done that too many times. All right, so now that the floor is uncovered, you can see just how bad this floor is. So this was OSB under here. It's not anymore, if you can tell. If this was a regular RV, it would have been trashed completely, 100%. There would have been nothing left of this. The entire floor was soaked through. And I'll end up showing you why later. But for now, this was pretty much powder, and the entire floor was disintegrated. There was really no hard parts except for this one spot around the toilet, just to make my life difficult. Also, funny story. This is the one trailer that when I took the toilet off, this is not Becky's fault, because she bought this trailer and had it sitting. The black tank was full. It was so full that when I pulled the toilet off, stuff spilled out on the floor. And this was the summer, and it smelled delightful. So that was a nice surprise. Yay, me. Anyway, lesson learned. Not a big deal. So all of this still had to go to. There was carpet up here. I'm going to cut all of this old plywood off because there was still ants in here. And I'm trying to figure out where the rest of the ants are coming from. What I didn't want is for them to be in the walls. The bottom of this OSB right there was actually rotten too, because the floor had been so wet it soaked up into that OSB that was touching it. So I had to take all of this off, because all of this on the front was bolted into the OSB, and I was trying to get it where I didn't have to take everything off and just work one at a time, which is why I decided to just cut it. So anyway, I will come back to that and take all that off later. But for now, I was really just trying to get it off. Now, because I will have to put a new floor on this, again, everything has to go. So all of the plumbing in here, I'm cutting the plumbing. These are actually the plumbing vents, but I ended up cutting all of the plumbing. It's just a lot easier to put the flooring in when there's nothing there versus when you have water lines and electrical and plumbing lines and all of the things. All right, now I'm tasked with removing the 50,000 nails that are in all of these pieces of framing. Some of this I will have to replace, as you can see, but for now, remove all of the, oh yeah, look, I found a little snake. That is a Decay's brown snake, and I didn't know this at the time, but I find them all over my yard now. They are super, super cute, super friendly. I just like to pick them up and take them inside and show my kids, and they're all like, oh, it's so cute. Anyway. Very cute little garden snakes. Very helpful. Before I fix any of this ceiling, I need to reseal this roof. Such a common misconception with horse trailers, because they're like, oh, it's a metal roof. Everybody thinks a metal roof won't leak. Wrong. So wrong. So horse trailers, for whatever reason, okay, they always just put butyl tape underneath any of the seams and call it a day. So wrong. So wrong. Is butyl tape needed? Yes, absolutely. But is self-leveling sealant also needed? Yes, absolutely. And it has to be self-leveling, okay? Because if it's not, look what happens. It all just comes off. I should not be able to get this sealant off that easily. If it does come off that easily, that means it's either really, really old or it's the wrong type of sealant. Also, I'm going to need you guys to note the knee pads, because I get lit up every time I'm on my knees and I don't have knee pads. Look, sunscreen, okay? I am moving up in the world. Knee pads and sunscreen and actual boots, okay? So y'all don't come at me, all of you safety wizards, all right? I'm listening. I can change. This is fine. Anyway, so first things first, need to reseal the roof, but in order to do that, I need to clean it. This was before I had bought a pressure washer. So that's what I do now. I usually just pressure wash the roof, call it a day. But this was before I had that. So I'm just going to use soap, water, and a scrub brush. I don't typically like to use chemicals on horse trailer roofs, because you don't really need it. As you can see, this is the reason why I want to reseal it first. You see all of those drips? that is the roof leaking. And what I don't want to do is put the new ceiling on and then it just go right through and ruin my new paneling. So roof is clean. I'm waiting for it to dry. In the meantime, there is some glue and some other stuff on these the ceiling. So I'm going to, one, remove all of that, and two, repair any of this water damage. So because I want the roof to dry really well, what I'm doing right now is I'm blowing out these little tiny crevices, because if not, the water will kind of just pool in there and then the sealant won't sit properly. And obviously I have waited for the roof to dry before I do any of this, just so you don't think that I'm applying it to a wet roof. If you want to know how to reseal a horse trailer roof, I do have a separate video on that. But it's essentially the same thing as this. Cover all the seams with self-leveling sealant, and that's that. So now that the roof is resealed, I am going to work on finishing up that framing. So essentially, I just have the framing that I cut out, and then I'm going to rebuild it kind of basically the same, and then support it by adding an extra strip of wood to kind of join it together. And this does not have to be perfect because it's going in the ceiling anyway. And really this corner, the horse trailer roofs are made weird because they're only really attached to the trusses, the aluminum trusses that go across. And so they basically build this metal frame that they just attach directly onto the couple trusses that they have in a horse trailer. So it's really just to hold the ceiling in place. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting my first panel here. So I'm starting from the front and I'm working my way to the back. Sometimes if I get lucky, I can salvage some of the other panels that I bring out of the horse trailer. So essentially that cut just gets made a lot easier because I already have a pre-made template that I can just trace over. I don't remember if that happened here, but it looks like it fits just fine. So cut out my holes for my electrical, and then I use some liquid nails and then tack it in. And that's pretty much it for paneling. This horse trailer is actually a completely different design than I have ever done before, which was good and bad. It's a little challenging trying to figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. So this ceiling is actually going to be completely covered by tongue and groove. She wanted more of like a log cabin feel. And so that's kind of what I was going for, but more of like a dark log cabin feel. So I think it was great in the long run, and you guys can see how it ends up at the end. But for now, just one panel by one panel. I think this is really my favorite part of any renovation is doing new ceiling panels, because everything just has to fit together perfectly for it to look good. And this is not bragging, okay? This is just things that have happened to me. So when I first started doing this, my ceiling panels, they didn't line up very well. They didn't look good on the edges. Like it wasn't it for me. And for somebody who really, really likes things lining up perfectly, that was a struggle. And so now that I've done this so many times over the past almost 6 years now, and they just like it lines up perfectly, and it just makes my brain really happy. So yeah, I think that's probably why I really like this. And there's just like weird cuts and corners and lots of like math and things to think about, where the electrical is, where am I going to have speakers? Do I need to support anything else? So it's really a big picture game when it comes to figuring all this out. And I do pretty much drill a little pilot hole and then use my router with a flush trim bit to perfectly finish out the holes where the vents are. Okay, so that area that I just showed you, that is where all of the water damage from the floor came from. Some of it probably did actually come from the roof, because the walls actually have furring strips on them. So if water gets in the corners of the roof, it'll drip down the sidewall and it will go directly into the floor. So some of it was from that, but it had this seam all around the trailer where water had pretty much just been pouring in. And again, because of the furring strips, it'll just go down the wall and straight into the floor. So that was actually confirmation that I needed to be able to move on, because what I did not want is for me not to be able to find the leak and then I do all this work and then it leaks again. So if you're curious how I tested it out, I sprayed a whole bunch of water on the side and I sprayed a whole bunch of water on the roof, and I made sure that nothing was coming out. So also in preparation for not wanting this to happen again, I'm going to put insulation on the floor before I put the subfloor in. So if you're wondering what I just did, this is my really funny hack to get things right and perfect every time. That was actually lipstick, because I don't wear lipstick, but I keep lipstick in my shop because I put it on the top of the toilet flange and the top of the plumbing stack right there. And when I put the foam board on top of it, it makes an imprint so I know where to cut. So anyway, if you're curious on how I use lipstick, that's it. Now, the one thing I wish I had taken out that I didn't was this hot water heater, because it just made things really annoying when it came time to put the subfloor and this foam in, just trying to get it up on the water lines and fit into place. So there's actually like, I don't know, it's probably 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch gap underneath each of the walls, because the walls are built on top of the floor. So what I didn't want was for that just to be dead space. I wanted the insulation and the flooring to go underneath that, which is why I decided to just let the board snap so I could tuck it underneath, because I'd rather have to put extra tape on it than for it to not be under there. I did end up taking all of those water lines out, and that worked out for me in the long run. And like I said, I'm going to redo a lot of those anyway, so it didn't really matter. All right, so first piece of subfloor. This is not OSB. I know some of you are going to be so happy about that. This is, it's just 1/2 inch plywood. And so essentially, I made 2 little cuts right there because I still got some propane lines that I need to watch out for. This first one was really a pain in the butt. I had to take every single thing out because it would not fit. So this is me just continuing to tear this trailer into more pieces than it already is, and put up every wire that's in there that I can think of. The one thing that I did forget was I wanted a moisture barrier here in case water did get under there. It didn't soak into the wood. So this is pretty much just a really giant tarp that I'm putting down. And I think it'll work out great just to be on the safe side. So if water does get in, one, it will be on the aluminum floor, which aluminum doesn't rust, which is great. It can corrode, but if it didn't corrode with all of that yuck underneath it, then we're probably good. So really just extra protection here. And that foam board serves as a little bit of insulation. It doesn't really have a high R value, but it's better than nothing that was there before. So what I'm doing right now is cutting pieces for the toilet flange to support it. In hindsight, I probably should have just taken the toilet flange out, but honestly, it is a gamble sometimes with these toilet flanges, whether they're going to come out and break. And then that really opens a can of worms for me, which I did not want to go through. Okay, so this is the back wall that goes into the horse area, and this is the fan in the bathroom. So the fan that is currently there is old and it didn't work, and so I was going to replace it, but this one is so old that the switch to the fan is on the it's on the wall essentially. So the new ones they have remotes. So right now what I'm going to do, this AC unit is going to be replaced because it doesn't work, and the fan is also going to be replaced. So I'm going to do that at the same time, and then I think I replaced the antenna on this as well. So the other fan had a million gazillion wires. I don't need a million gazillion wires. I really only need 2 wires. I need a 12 volt positive and a 12 volt negative. So I don't really have to worry about all of the other wires, which is fantastic. So I'm kind of just pulling it out of the wall, and then I'm going to replace where the original switch was on the wall with kind of like a little cubby that you can just keep the remote in. Now, what you see me doing right here is replacing the gasket on the AC, because at this point, I did not think that I was going to keep this thing. So this was, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, all of the appliances and everything works in a trailer, but this one was just difficult. That fan didn't work. The AC unit didn't work. The fridge didn't work. So there was a lot of things that didn't work. The hot water heater actually didn't work like it was supposed to, and I had to troubleshoot it. Anyway, it's a whole thing. But that's okay. This is what I do, and it's all a learning experience. So because of that new vent, I obviously needed self-leveling sealant. Everything should be hooked up, ready to go for that. And now I just need to continue to take the million gazillion staples out. This was actually one panel. This is what I was telling you about. Sometimes I get lucky and I can just pull panels off and use them as a template. It just makes life a lot easier when I do that. So this was the one for the bed because there was water damage on it. So I'm going to go ahead and replace both of these panels. This is just, it's actually 5mm underlayment because a lot of times places don't sell 1/8" plywood. My Home Depot actually sells it now, which is super exciting. I'm sorry if I'm bouncing around so much, but my ADHD really, really enjoys bouncing around because if I talk about one thing for too long, I'm like, oh no, I need to talk about something else because they're going to start getting bored. So that is why I actually bounce around like this in person, because then I get bored with one thing. Okay, so remember I told you face frames that I took out. I was going to save some, and that was me. This is me saving them. So I think this one was for the bathroom, if I'm not mistaken. Essentially, I'm sanding it down. So this is actually made of real wood, which is fantastic because some face frames and some cabinets and RVs are made of particle board. And if they are, you cannot sand them down because you will ruin them. But this, I got really lucky. So I was able to sand it down, and then it is easier to take out the old 1/8" plywood and replace it with new 1/8" plywood than trying to sand it down in the original, with the original finish. Ooh, no, this is the front. I forgot about that. That was real-time realization of that. So sorry guys, definitely in the front. Okay, so here comes the exciting part because this was a little more challenging than I thought it was going to be, but also very rewarding in the end. So these are the tongue and groove pieces that I was telling you about. These are 1/8 inch, actually maybe a quarter inch thick. So I bought these at Lowe's. The only thing with these is, one, you have to sand down the little bit of finish that they have. And two, I kept having to look through them to make sure that I wasn't getting one that had a bunch of busted pieces in it. So if you're going to do this, just keep an eye out for that. I do have the slowed down version of how I did all this, how I mapped it out with the electrical, all of that fun stuff. So essentially, I'm making a long piece, and then I'm just going to start staggering it. I did cut all these fancy pieces. So anyway. Yeah, so this looks so good in the end. I'm so excited for you guys to see this. The only thing that I probably would have done differently is that I think I would have glued this in versus just nailing it in. So you notice on the ceiling, I have made all of these marks, and that is because I needed to know exactly where every single piece of framing in this was. So before I put the ceiling up, I marked where every single piece of framing was on the walls, on each side of the wall, and then I just drew a straight line directly across. I want to get these pieces in as many pieces of framing as I can. I don't want these just floating around up there and not having something to actually tack down to. Hole saws were my best friend here, which was incredible. The only thing that was kind of annoying is that when I originally cut these holes, I was going to put a whole bunch of small puck lights in here, which was what was originally in here, was little small puck lights, but with the dark color that I went with on the wall, it wasn't bright enough for me. So I ended up putting bigger lights in, and I had to cut the holes bigger, which is fine. You'll see me do that later on. So that's why I put the front face frame in, is because I needed to do that in order to start the ceiling. So this is really just one at a time. I'm kind of marking it out as I go, making sure that that tongue and groove is really, really set in place. And I ended up going back over and kind of just roughly sanding all of the rough spots where the joints were. And yeah, that one piece right there, I must have cut it 4 times. I was so tired. Anyway, so that's how I know when I need to stop, is when I've cut something wrong 4 times. And yeah. Anyway, again, router, self-trim or a flush trim bit. Absolutely love it. You guys have seen me use it a million times. Very, very messy though. But look how good it looks. It looks so good. So I went and I kind of just roughed it up a little bit. And because of that, I had to go kind of drag out a little bit more of this stain. And I know it looks bad here, but just wait until it dries because it was obviously not dry there. And it looks really good once I put polyurethane on. So this is probably the next day. And I'm going to slap some polyurethane on this. It's so easy just to use a roller. I also have a hairnet because I have learned that if I paint anything over my head, I will spill it and get it in my hair or in my eyes, which is not super fun. So don't be me. And of course you got to clean up your mess. I don't know if you guys are like that too, but I need to have a clean workspace sometimes, and I have to I just don't like it when it's messy. My brain doesn't work. Okay, so here is the flooring. Now you guys know that I am a vinyl sheet girl. I do not like LVP. Come at me, okay? Not a fan. So essentially, I just measured and I cut, and that was it. I also have a separate video on if you don't know how to do this and you want an easy way to do it. I have another video on that. You basically make yourself a giant template and you glue pieces of scrap wood together and it comes out perfectly every single time. Anyway, flooring looks phenomenal. So the reason why you haven't seen me tack it down, well, you do now, but I like to let the floor acclimate. So sometimes if it's really hot or really cold, the flooring needs to settle before I do anything to it. So that's what I was doing, was letting it settle and acclimate. Now I can go ahead and put my plumbing back in. So I think I just put like a coupling in here, and I cut it so I would be able to do that. I cut it at a place where I knew I would need to add a coupling to join the two pieces back together. Now I have to reconfigure these water lines right here because the other one, there was no shut off for it, which I thought was super, super weird. And I wanted there to be some type of shut off for the hot water in case someone ever needed to winterize it. So it didn't go, if you winterize it, it doesn't go into the hot water heater. Anyway, I have a more detailed video on that, but this was super frustrating because the floors were so corroded that some of the connections were corroded, and I'm just cleaning one of them right here. Could I have went and bought a new one? Yes, but this was waiting for me to get done because I could not finish putting any of those other pieces in until I put the ground back where I think it had some type of inverter over there that somebody had put in. Okay, flooring's in, all of that's done. Back to more sanding because now is the time where I need to start putting cabinets and all that fun stuff back in. So more sanding, here we go. Same thing as before. This time I actually had to modify this because I put insulation on the floor, and because of that, the face frame, this was actually floor to ceiling face frame, it was too tall. So I had to modify it to make that work. So I'll have to do that to a couple of things, just modify it to make it work, but it's still better than building an entire new face frame and cabinet, which I'll build the new cabinet part, but I didn't want to have to build the face frames. I am going to restain the face frames, which is why I'm sanding it all down. But because this wall is so narrow, I needed to put in that cabinet for the bathroom first. And now I can go ahead and start framing my new wall. I did reuse some of the framing that was here before, but because I wanted to modify the shower, I needed to extend the framing out a little bit more. And then I also have the plumbing. I had to modify some of the plumbing. So anyway, it was a couple of different things that I had to do. I did want to make sure that this framing is straight and square, and so that kind of took a long time because sometimes the floor may not be square, sometimes the ceiling may not be square. So that is the joy of horse trailer and RV or camper renovations, is that sometimes things are not square and it can really throw everything else off. All right, let's work on this shower. Okay, so remember before there was a little tiny dinky corner shower here, absolutely terrible. I have one in my fifth wheel, and I would say I am on the taller side of people. I'm almost 6 foot. and I can barely fit in it. So I am going to make this the biggest shower that I possibly can, given the space. So because we already have a sink over in this trailer, and it's such a small living quarters. It's big for some. A lot of living quarters are not this big. It's a nice size living quarters, but there's no need to have two sinks in a living quarter. And so I deleted a sink from the bathroom because if somebody wants to wash their hands, they can just walk out to the kitchen and wash their hands. That was my thought process. So I deleted the sink, and now I'm making a bigger base for a shower, and I'm going to build kind of like a storage all throughout from ceiling to floor. And it works out really well. So I built a new base for this tub because I don't know if you've ever stepped on your RV shower and it's really like you feel like you're going to fall through. That's because somebody did not build the base good enough. I wanted a big beefy base, so there's no question if you're going to fall through or not. Okay, so I did that, made sure everything fit. Now the hard part is aligning the plumbing, and this is really just one of those learned arts about getting it at the right angle to fit in with the tub drain. Now I will say you can get like left hand, right hand drains, center drains. So I got the center drain on this pan. The shower pan is from Rec Pro. I do buy a lot of my stuff from them. So anyway, this is just one of those learned arts about how to line it up perfectly. And then I can screw in my base, secure my water lines right there, add my drain in. You can buy these drains off Amazon. They go bad all the time. So I think they're like 10 or 15 bucks on Amazon. I'm pretty sure I have most of this stuff linked on my Amazon storefront. It's called the Horse Trailer Renovation List. So if there's anything that you see that you're like, ooh, I'd like that, you can go look on there and check that out. So couple things for this shower. I have the shower diverter that I have to put in, and then I also have a couple other specialty plumbing things for the shower that I need to install. So because of that, we're going to go ahead and have some sort of base here that the shower diverter needs to attach to. So that is pretty much what I'm putting in right here. It has to be not very thick because this wall obviously is not very thick. So there's really only so much that I can do. I'm actually bolting this in. I didn't want to screw it in because the other side, I can't have a screw sticking out, and it's only 1/2 inch wood, and a 1/2 inch screw is not going to hold this thing in place like I want it to. So I actually put not lag screws. I put bolts in, from the back and then just bolted it in. I think they're just like 1/4 inch bolts that I put in with a nut on the other side. And then for the shower head up here, I needed to put in a 90-degree drop ear so that I can just screw the fitting directly into that. And I'm reusing some of the PEX, and then pretty much anything for the shower from the floor up is brand new. So that's all just new 1/2 inch PEX that I'm using. Okay, back to this front piece. I've removed everything on the front at this point. So now I'm just fitting my new piece of plywood in here. And my husband had to help me hold it in place because I need to drill holes for all of these things that are on the front. There's so many things on the front. And then I got new carriage bolts for all of these. I don't really like to reuse carriage bolts, especially if it's ones that come out through the exterior. Carriage bolts are so cheap, it's really not worth it to not replace them, especially since these hold the batteries, the propane, so pretty important things that you don't want bad bolts on. So anyway, I'll go ahead and do that. And then the last hole right here, there was a water spigot right there that actually went, it hooked directly into the plumbing system. So like if you wanted to give your horse water or something from the front, then there's just a little water spigot there that they can do that. Okay, moving along. So this is the PEX that I was talking about. I'm really just running it all the way up into the shower. You see I've already got the shower head fittings there. Now I'm going to go ahead and replace all of these other fittings. So this is the fresh tank fill, and then the water spigot, and I think it was the city water fill. So essentially, I'm just going to clean off all this old gunk. I obviously cleaned off the gunk on the other one. Fresh butyl tape, fresh screws. I did not replace either of these because it looked like they had been replaced before. And the freshwater one was actually an entire metal fitting, which you don't typically see. And so somebody spent a lot of money on that. And I really, really love metal fittings versus the plastic ones. So anyway, that's why I decided to just keep those two. Now this is the freshwater and the spigot right there. So I did put all new PEX fittings on for that just because it's an easy thing to do. There's little gaskets in all of your 1/2 inch connections that essentially keep water from leaking out. And so anytime I see that, I just go ahead and replace the fitting. Now I'm pressure testing this, and you see there's a giant hole in this. Okay, like giant hole. This is always why I pressure test before I put water in any sort of camper or situation, because it's so much easier to listen for air than it is to clean up a whole bunch of water. So definitely pressure test before you hook water up. All right, so now that I've cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and hook some water up and see if this shower works. And woo, it does, which is phenomenal. Nothing's leaking. Everything looks great, so I'm going to keep moving on. I like to kind of pressure test and actually put water in it about halfway through a renovation, because it's really easy to get to water lines before you start adding furniture and all of the other things. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start building out this wall, which is fantastic because it starts to actually look like this could become something at this point, because we started with nothing. And can't forget all of the wiring for the electrical. Again, when I cut out panels, I know those of you who've watched me do this have seen me do it a million times, but those who have not, I just used a straight edge and my circular saw with some clamps. Pretty easy, and I'm going to go ahead and fasten this tub directly to the framing, and this is actually going to start to look like a shower. So you're probably thinking to yourself, Heather, why do you have wood inside of the shower? Just wait, please, okay? Because that is not how this is going to end up. That is really just the framing part of this shower. Normally I do the Palisade tiles, but I wanted to try something different with this. And so I bought a shower surround kit, and it did not disappoint. It was pretty awesome. Now, what you're seeing me build right here is the other side of the shower. So you saw me just put that one panel in, but this is the framing for the other side of the shower. And then this is actually the original corner, what do you want to call it? Medicine cabinet in the bathroom. And so I took that angle as a template. I cut it to how long I needed it to be. And now I'm going to use that as a template to build my shelves. So essentially I'm going to make a bunch of shelves that are going to go directly into that corner. It's going to be really narrow in the front, but then it gets really deep in the back. So this is going to be really good for things like towels, or I made the first one kind of taller so you can put cleaning supplies or a broom, or just anything that is kind of narrow that you can stick in that cubby. So you see the front and it kind of widens out at the back. And I believe I used 3/4 inch plywood for this. This may be 1/2 inch plywood. I don't remember, honestly. With some 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch framing on the bottom of it. So that framing I can screw directly into the walls. All right, so we're going to do some paint preparation. So I cleaned the walls. I didn't show you all of it, but I cleaned the walls and then sanded it just a little bit. Now this is Kills primer, and I did put a mat down so I wouldn't spill it on my nice floor. And this is a really cool part of a renovation because I feel like it all kind of starts to come together. You do need primer first. You have to use a primer on these walls. You have to scrape it up and you have to use a primer. Now, this is where I changed my mind. This is the original color that I picked, and I painted all of it. And then I was like, not for me. Nope, not liking it. Because the original color that I wanted was that dark charcoal color, which I love, love, love. Ooh, look at this. Okay, yeah. Also, I had to take this out anyway. So this is a great time to clean out a furnace anytime that it's already out, because wasps tend to make nests in here. And then when it starts going, it goes ding, 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 and it just messes up the fan and it hits it. Anyway, cleaning it out, putting it back in. So back to the color. All right. So so back up. Some of you guys know this about me. Before I start any renovation, I have to pray about where God wants this to go. Okay. Because ultimately everything that I do, I want it to be for the glory of God. Okay. And I strayed from what I felt like the Holy Spirit was telling me when it came to this trailer. It was going to be this dark color with the wood. This is the vision I had in my head, but then I got nervous because it was dark. And I was like, this is not going to turn out like I think it should. And so because I did not trust in the vision that I feel like God had given me for this trailer, I strayed from it. And then what happened? I was like, nope, this is not it. God, why did I not just listen to you in the first place? I am such an idiot. So I went back and I bought the color that I feel like the Lord had put on my heart. And I'm so glad I did, because that other color was like, what was I thinking? It was like a peach mixed with a banana in the worst way possible. Anyway, so it's okay. We're done. We're over. Sometimes I need a little reminder that I know I can't see the full picture and what God has planned for this. And I look at it and I only see the little tiny vision of what I feel like I can see in my judgment. And it's not good sometimes. So anyway, this is a reminder that I need to just trust God and go with the plan that He originally had for me. And I'm really glad that I did, because this is probably one of my favorite trailers that I've ever done. Okay, so this part was super annoying because I had forgotten the whole battery situation, and the battery was too big to come out, and I had to take the motor off of the front to be able to move that around anyway. It was just a whole thing. So I had to take the motor off to be able to do that. And then you remember that corroded wire that I told you about? I definitely had to fix that so I could hook up the 12 volts and see if everything inside actually worked. So this is me redoing that 12 volt wire because I needed to start testing things, because this is the phase where if something's going to break, now is the time for me to figure out that it's broken. And unfortunately, I did not have the fridge in to determine if the fridge was broken at this point. But I really wanted to hook up the power to at least see if the outlets work and to see if the AC worked and all the other things. I also wanted to put some lights in so I can see in here, because it's always nice to be able to see when it's dark. Anyway, it's always nice for you guys to be able to see too, because sometimes my videos get really dark, especially when the sun's going down and there's no light. So anyway, this is great. Good news all around. Okay, so that area you just saw me standing in is going to be the storage for the bathroom. That was originally where that sink was that I deleted, therefore we can have a bigger shower. And so these are going to be the shelves that go in that corner. So I'm going to stain them. The original stain color of this trailer was like a really light orangish golden color, and I wasn't super fond of it. So I was going for more of this dark color. This is going to be the same stain color all around. Same stain color that's on the ceiling as well. So I started out with one at the base, and then I'm just kind of building up from there. You see, I specifically put it where the joint was, where those two panels intersect, just to kind of cover up that spot. So there's longer storage down at the bottom for whatever else it may need. So, and then a couple more up top, and then I ended up supporting it with the framing from the back of the bathroom wall. So these are those little puck lights that I was telling you about, and when I originally hooked one up, it just wasn't bright enough for me. And so I decided to get these puck lights. They're not puck lights, they're bigger. They're still kind of flush mount lights, if you will, but the other ones were really, really flat, and I kind of like the sleek look. But it's okay. These are much brighter, and I would definitely needed it. It needed to brighten up the trailer because the other ones were just too small. I either would have had to add like 10 more or just completely change the lights together. So I just decided to change the lights. Now I'm going to go ahead and do all of the wiring for this fan. This is the fan in the bathroom that I was telling you guys about, that there's a gazillion different fans. And then I realized I took one wire out that I shouldn't have taken out, because the 12 volt power running for the lights in the bathroom was also connected to the fan. Shocking. So anyway, I'm just redoing all of that. And this was the lights for the bathroom. And I pulled all of it out because the other one had the switch for the light in it, and I didn't realize that when I had pulled it out originally. So I'm rewiring that. I'm going to add another light in here because there was only one light in this bathroom, and I felt like that wasn't enough. So I wired this switch to now have two lights in this bathroom, and that's so much better than just one little itty bitty dinky light, because nobody wants to be showering in the dark. So back to that little closet. I told you I was going to make a little base. I didn't like how it kind of, there's water lines right there. So I didn't want it to press up against the water lines. So that's why I put those blocks underneath it, because it's not like I can get under it to screw it in. Anyway, so that is in. I'm going to go ahead and add some more supports to this wall. That way the corner of this shelf isn't just flopping around. I wanted it to be as sturdy as you could possibly make it. Now that that's done, I can go ahead and add in the back to the shower. So here comes that shower surround that I was telling you guys about. This is a herringbone surround that I have custom cut to make fit this shower. This is actually made for home use. So you would use this in your house if you wanted to, but I thought it was really cool and I liked how everything overlapped. And so I was like, you know what? We're going to try it. And I absolutely loved it. The only thing that was a little tricky was lining the herringbone up, because it was not the original fit that it was supposed to be. And so that was really the only thing that I kind of had to play with a little bit. I am using a dry erase marker to dry on this. That way I can erase it. There is a film that goes on this, and so it wouldn't have mattered anyway, even if I used a Sharpie. So I'm putting this on with the film in place. This is construction adhesive that I'm spreading out, and then contact is key for this, because I want to make sure that this is going to make a lot of contact and not come off. So that is why I'm pretty much just rubbing this thing down, and I don't want any like weird bubbles or anything or high spots from the construction adhesive. All right, so originally this is how it's supposed to go, is fit in that little channel, and then all the herringbones line up, and then it's perfect and it's fine. But because this is not the intended purpose for this, it did not line up like that. And so because of that, I decided not to use the little waterproof tabs that are originally built in, and I'm cutting this to fit an entire sheet on the back. This actually adds extra waterproofing for me too, because I can put silicone on the white tabs, and then I can put construction adhesive in the middle. So it's kind of like a double duo if you see me with both parts here. So water won't get back here, but also it will adhere. And so I'm just making sure that that's all nice and smooth. I did end up going back with a little J roller that I had and just making sure everything was nice and flush and there was no high points in it. And now I'm just letting it dry. So next I'm going to work on these kitchen cabinets. This is the upper kitchen cabinets. I did save some of it, not a whole lot. As you can see, I'm kind of adding more pieces to it that was originally rotted. So this is pretty much going to be the new kitchen cabinets. Same design, just some new pieces. And I'm going to end up staining this the same color as all of the other pieces. I also need to start working on the bottom cabinets as well. And so this is going to be the panel for the bottom. Some of the bottom cabinets got a little yucky too, so I just saved the face frame from the bottom cabinets. Now I need to box out the fridge and the part of the stove. So this is the original OSB plate that was at the bottom. This was not bad, so I reused it. And then again, it's not worth it to try to sand those small pieces. And so I just knock them out, take the staples out, and then put a new piece of 1/4-inch plywood or 1/8-inch plywood in its place, and it stains just fine. So I'm also cutting out a new false bottom for this, but I'm not tacking it in yet because there's wires that need to go in the bottom. Or actually through the framing of this, there's a light that goes in the bottom. And I'm adding a new shelf right here that is 1/2-inch plywood that I have some 3/4-inch framing underneath to kind of keep in place. And now I'm dusting everything off before I put it back in. So this is the upper cabinets. I think they look great. I'm just going to center them where the window is, and then I can screw them into the framing in the ceiling. And as you can see, I did not put the side on. So this is me just making that new side piece. And this is a really great sander to use for that because I want that edge to be perfectly round. So this is 1/2-inch plywood that I've done and kind of just tacked it in there for now. And that piece that I was messing with is going to be the bottom of where the microwave is, but I haven't put that in yet either because I also need to run wiring through that. Okay, we're getting there. This is the bottom kitchen cabinets. Again, reuse the frame, and you just saw me build that side piece. And then this is the face frame for the cabinet on the other side of the wall that holds all the electrical. So I'm gonna resurface this face frame, and then I have to build these shelves and these boxes back out because all of the framing on the back was completely rotten. And so I'm just going to rebuild these, and I want to rebuild it to, I think I actually made it thinner than it originally was because I wanted more room for a mattress. I think that's what I did. Anyway, so this is me just rebuilding this cabinet. There's nothing to this, guys. Everybody's always like, I can never build cabinets. It's so easy. All you need is some 2x4s and some 1/8 inch plywood or 1/4 inch plywood. That's literally it. These are built so much differently than regular cabinets in your house are. They are not built to the same standard, I assure you, and you would not want that in your RV because then it would be too heavy. And this is a very snug fit for this. I don't typically like them to be this snug, but I think for whatever reason, this is the issue that I was having. So these wires, originally there was a light here, and for whatever reason, I think because I shortened this cabinet, it won't fit back in the same place to where I drilled the hole. So I ended up just soldering these together and continuing the circuit and putting them back up in the ceiling. So I can do that, one, because I know where it is, and two, because I've soldered it. I would never put like any type of connection other than soldering in a ceiling. So I solder it and I put heat shrink wrap on it so they can't touch each other, obviously. And then it'll be a perfectly good connection. Just make sure that I have to make sure I get a good solder, because if that thing gets lost in the ceiling, you'll never find it. And then there's no telling what won't work if you don't get that right. So here's another tangent. One thing that is really frustrating about horse trailers is the windows. Okay, this does not look like a regular RV window. That's because for campers and RVs, they trim out the windows. In horse trailers, they do not. They frame them as squares, which is so annoying. So the other option is reframe it and then re-put new paneling on it. Or 90% of horse trailers come with these window, what do you want to call it? Covers, the ones that you just saw me sanding down. So essentially, they're just fancy trim pieces that cover up all of the aluminum parts of the window. So when I'm doing a renovation like this and I'm not tearing out the walls, I typically don't mess with it because then I would just have to redo everything, and that is a lot. So if I'm doing a build from scratch, 100%, I will frame out the windows so they're rounded, and then I'll put a nice trim piece in there so it just looks like a normal window. But for these, I can't do that, so I have to reuse the original trim pieces that were already there. Okay, I'm building the upper cabinet above that window. This one was totally messed up. Could not even save the face frame of this one. I did save the doors, but the face frame was just total junk. It was disintegrated, and it wasn't working. So I'm building a new one. When I make face frames, this is common pine board. It's 3/4 inch, and I buy it at usually Home Depot, sometimes Lowe's, depends on where I'm at the time. But I really just look and make sure that I can find pieces that don't have a whole lot of knots, ones that are straight and that look pretty decent. Because most of the time I'm painting these so I can fill in any imperfections, but because I was staining these, I wanted these to be extra nice because I couldn't fill any holes or anything like that. So that's why it's important to just make sure that you have the right kind and a nice type of wood. Now, if you remember correctly, there was a radio right here on this side, and so I'm going to replace this with a Bluetooth radio so they can hook their phone up, play music over the speakers. This has inside and outside speakers. And so when I do this, is there a kit that you can buy that this would fit in perfectly? Yeah, I'm sure there probably is. But I've always just made it. That is what it is. I just like to make life difficult for myself. And if you've ever installed a radio before, you know that there is a specific size screw that they take. And when I was cleaning out an old barn one time, I found an entire box of these specific mounting screws. And so you better believe that I'm going to use those special screws because I have a gazillion of them now and they were free. And this is why I have a weird collection of screws and nuts and bolts. So I mean, I keep scrap wood too, but my nuts and bolts obsession is actually real. But I have a bolt. Any of my neighbors come to me, hey, you got this size bolt? Yeah, I do. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm a good friend to have. That's what I got to say. So now comes the staining process. And you're probably asking yourself, Heather, why didn't you just stain it and then put it in? Well, I just didn't. Okay, I just didn't. Don't know why. This is just the way that I did it. I'm also making my own trim pieces because I'm using the same... it's at the 5mm underlayment. I just cut strips of it and I'm using the same wood so I can have some type of continuity throughout the trailer. So after I stain it, I'm going to go ahead and start polyurethaning it because nobody wants rough cabinets. All right. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I like to wipe my cabinets down. I also have 3 boys and everything gets gross with mud and dirt and food and literally who knows what else. So I have to wipe my cabinets down a lot. And yeah, so anyway, I typically do probably 4 coats of polyurethane. I sand it, and then I usually do 2 more coats of polyurethane. And that usually gets it to that smoothness that I want. All of the face frames were fairly easy to sand. These cabinet doors were absolutely atrocious, and I'm sure there's probably a better way to do this. Since then, I've come across things like laser resurfacing, which I don't know how expensive that would have been, but it would have saved me a lot of time to be able to do that. I also looked into like darker gel stains. I just didn't like how they all looked. So anyway, I ended up hand sanding all of these, and that was quite the job. And now I have to polyurethane all of these, which was also quite the job. Okay, so you remember that water tank that I told you was super gross in the beginning? This is me cleaning it out, okay? Definitely don't want to put it back in when it's dirty and disgusting. We are in the putting everything back in phase right now. And I am actually going to move this water pump up a little bit because I need to build a frame to put a couch on right here. And I don't want that to be in the way. So I've moved it up. It's only probably 2 inches, just a little bit closer to that furnace. And I can go ahead and start putting all of the ductwork back in and just putting things into place to make sure that I remember to put everything back to where it's supposed to be. I can also go ahead and reconnect all of this wiring here. Ooh, look at this. I found this really, really big spider. I didn't kill it, by the way. It's just cute. And if you're wondering what all my kids do while I'm working on things, you just saw right there, I have a giant water slide that I put in my front yard. And I can watch my kids and I can work for a pretty long time and usually they don't get in trouble. So it's a win-win situation. They have fun and I can still watch them. All right, so after that water tank is good and cleaned out, I cleaned it with bleach. I actually did this over the course of a couple days, let it sit, turned it several times, just cleaned it out. I also have a special fitting that I put in and it just goes whoosh and moves it all around. And it's pretty much like pressure washing the inside of the tank. So that is phenomenal. And so I can put that back in. And I can also go ahead and install the radio and make sure that all of that works so I can have light and I can have music. So moving up in the world. Really the only trick about speakers is you have to make sure that you have the positive to the positive side and the negative to the negative side on the speakers. And there's actually a backup battery that goes also to the 12 volt. So that's very important. All right, we're back to more staining. And then again, more polyurethaning on top of that. I feel like it never ended with this project, which was hilarious because I sanded and stained for so long. And I learned so much trying to figure out how to get all of the stain off and get the color to pick up like I wanted it to, because I wanted it all to match and be continuous throughout the trailer. And it's hard for me when something looks just slightly off. But then it's funny because my client, she actually loves that type of thing. She feels like it gives it a little bit of character. And so I was like, you know what? This is good. This is all fine. All right, now we're working on some trim, which is great because it just makes things feel like it's coming together. And then I can start just kind of spot painting and putting on all of the finishing touches that make this look like an actual completed project versus what we started with, which was a hot mess. We are almost there, guys. So at this point, I'm going to start building out the couch. And this was really fun to build because it was simple. A lot of the couches that I build in trailers like these really need to be like a extra sleeping arrangement, like a pull-out jackknife sofa or something to that matter. But this couldn't have been that because there was the furnace, there was the water pump, there was the water tank. There were so many things underneath this couch, and even storage really isn't possible just because of how much functional things take up that space. So I'm really going to try to utilize as much of this as I can. So I'm putting this directly on top, not directly on top. There's a little bit of clearance where that plumbing is that runs all the way around. And then you're probably like, how are you going to cover up the rest of that water tank? Well, let me tell you, I'm going to build a step there. So that's going to be one step to kind of go up to the bed. Because despite what you think, that is, I don't know, it's probably 4 feet tall from the floor up to the bed, and a normal person can't just jump that. I can barely jump that. So there needs to be some sort of step to get up there, especially if this trailer is ever going to go to somebody who may not be as young as I am, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to frame this out piece by piece, and then I am going to cover up that little spot right there that you see where the plumbing runs directly into the kitchen. So this is just, again, a whole bunch of squares, putting it together. Just square after square, putting it together, making a whole box. Nice and snug, fitting it in, screwing it all together as I go, and making sure that everything is nice and square. I am also securing this water tank. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but you also never know, because when you're going down the road, it's like a mini earthquake every time. So you don't really know what's going to happen. Now I'm putting some OSB on top. That way the couch can sit directly on top of this OSB. I have picked out a couch that will fit here perfectly. So that's great. This wiring right here is actually wiring for the carbon monoxide alarm, which you do need one. I tell this every video that I talk about. They do expire every 6-ish years, 6 to 8 years, it depends. And the material on the inside of the carbon monoxide alarm actually deteriorates over time because of its half-life. And so you need to replace it if you want to not die of carbon monoxide. Check the expiration dates, guys, because it's important. I tell people this all the time. So let's circle back to these windows that I told you were absolutely atrocious. It's fine though. It still looks good. I stained them the same color as everything else. And so these are actually really cool to me because this must be like a luxury type of trailer. They actually have LED strips that go on the underside of the actual window treatments. I did end up making new window treatments, so I'm going to replace those. But I thought that was just a cool little touch. Going to go ahead and start putting everything else back in. This is a new microwave from Rec Pro. You know, I love my Rec Pro stuff. And so it comes with the trim kit, makes it look really nice. And so I'll go ahead and install that. The trim kit, you really do need it. I'm telling you, you need it, because if not, it'll fall out. I do think I needed to modify this a little bit because the other one, yeah, I did. I had to make it a little bit wider because the other one did not have that vent at the top, I think is what it was. And so I just cut it a little bit taller, cleaned it out, and then I didn't account for the little tiny feet. And so I'm just going to cut out a little spot where the feet are. And again, it's not going to go anywhere because it's being screwed in. And so it doesn't, you can't really see it anyway. And I'm going to go ahead and put in this other panel that's on the other side of the fridge so that it can have a little bit of insulation and not let that heat escape. So now that that is in, I was thinking about a place for a TV, and the spot that I originally wanted the TV was going to be on the other side where the shower was. But there was plumbing in the way, and I didn't think that would be a really good place to mount an actual TV. So I'm making this little tiny cabinet. That's what we're going to call it. It's not really a cabinet. Anyway, I'm going to put it right here beside the kitchen and pretty much frame it out this will end up having a little hinge on it where you can put remotes or anything small. And there's just going to be a little TV that can sit on top of that. I just wanted a space. I don't think that Becky is going to be watching a whole lot of TV in here, but I wanted her to at least have the option to put one somewhere if she wanted to just settle down. If it was raining one day and she wanted to be inside, or I don't even know. I always like to just have a place for something like that. All right, the best part, putting in lights and everything else. Absolutely love it. So finish putting in all the lights and all the other stuff. This is a light switch. So I had all of the lights, most of the lights except for these two hooked up, but I needed to add a switch up here. And so I made a little template out of cardboard and I kind of just drew it. And when I cut it out, I make sure that my fingers are up in the ceiling, pressing the wires out. That way I don't accidentally clip one of the wires, because that's what you don't want to do. Sometimes they don't give you a whole lot of extra wire. And so I'm going to go ahead and wire all of these switches. Super easy to wire. It's pretty much 12 volts in, 12 volts out, and it just depends the switch if it's on or off. So pretty easy to wire a switch. This is something easy that I always like to replace. I don't keep any of the switches just because it's like $10 for a new switch. So why would I keep one that is like old and yucky and disgusting? So I'm going to replace all of these actually. Lights too. So we're adding new LED lights. I do not like the old lights that come in RVs and horse trailers just because they have the bulbs in them and they get really hot. So I like the ones with LEDs because it's less of a burn risk. And if you've ever touched one of these hot bulbs, then you know exactly what I'm talking about because they get a lot hotter than you think they do. Okay, so now we're going to do some touch-up paint here. And it really just makes things look like it's actually coming together. And I know like it feels like it's really dark in here with all of this black, but I promise you it's going to look so good once all the lights are on. This is the couch that I picked out. I thought it would be good to have like a brownish color mixed in with all of the dark colors, especially with the color of the flooring. And then when you see the bedding, I think it's going to make a whole lot of sense too. Now, I don't know why there's a whole bunch of stickers on this door, but I didn't like it, so I took it off. I told you guys this AC unit didn't work, but I thought it looked really cool with the register right there painted, or the control board and all that painted black. And so I painted it black and I put it up there, but then it was a moot point because it didn't work. Same thing with this fridge. Spent all the time to paint it black. Didn't work. But it was fine. So I hooked this up. Again, it's just some wires and a propane line. This right here, there is a outlet, which this is so weird to me because I've never seen this in a trailer. That outlet had 4 wires. Why would they do that? It makes no sense to me. Anyway, so I had to use some Wagos here because it was just too many wires for this one area. Just to do it safely. I'm not a fan of Wagos. Some people really love it. Me, I'm not so much, but I will make exceptions for things like this because sometimes rattling going down the road can loosen the connection and it's just not my thing. Anyway, okay, so trim. Look at all this nice trim that's going on. And then, so after I put the trim up, obviously I needed to check the propane lines. So to do that, I need to add soapy water, to all of the connections. And if there's bubbles, then you have a propane leak. If there's no bubbles, you have no propane leak. So just a little tidbit of information. I always double and triple check my propane connections. So next is this brand new fridge, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and I love it. And one great thing about this trailer is that it had a bigger or a thicker wire. So some only have like a 14 gauge wire or a 12 gauge wire. This one probably had a 10 gauge wire, and it was absolutely phenomenal that I didn't have to beef up the 12 volt system for this fridge. Side note, this fridge actually runs, it runs strictly off of 12 volts, but it's got an app where you can control it on your phone, which I thought was also really cool. And I can't forget to clean the toilet. Dookie water, anybody? Yep. Didn't think so. It's delicious. Anyway, so that was super fun. Because remember, all that dookie water was just sitting up there because it spilled out on me when I took the toilet off of the flange. So good times, guys. Good times. By the way, I did empty that for my client. I don't want to be that person. All right, moving on. So I'm just finishing up building all of these cabinets. This is the one in the bathroom. I need to make a platform that's going to sit right on top of here. So it's got a whole bunch of funky like corners and stuff. So I glued scrap wood together just to get the perfect angle. So if you're ever unsure or it's got a whole bunch of things or you really just don't want to mess with it and want to get it right every time, just make yourself a template, okay? Nobody's going to be like, a real carpenter wouldn't do that. They would just measure. Well, you know what? Maybe I'm not a real carpenter, okay? I don't care what you call me, but I get things done efficiently. I get it done right. Looks great and it's sturdy. So call me whatever you want to. All right. I like my templates. Okay. So I've made it. Oh, look how well it fits. It fits so great with my template. And I can actually use that same one and keep going with all of the other shelves that I want, which makes this so much easier. And this bathroom has so much storage, which is absolutely phenomenal because a lot of smaller RVs and horse trailers don't have that much storage. So this is just staining a couple of other things. So when I tested the propane lines, I quickly realized that the propane regulator was busted. And when I say busted, I mean propane was just pouring out of the regulator, which is not a good sign, guys, not a good sign. So I needed to replace the entire regulator, which is exactly what I did. I had to grind part of it off because it was corroded, and so that was super fun. But I got that propane regulator changed, and then I went ahead and pressurized the line with propane and tested it out, and there was no leaks again. Again, always, always, always check your propane lines. So next we are trimming it up here, and I had to cope some of these, especially the ones in the bathroom. It just looks a lot better, I feel like, when you cope weird angles because there's really no messing up. And here is our new AC unit, okay? Again, I keep saying Rec Pro, but y'all, they are the best, okay? So, new AC unit, yes, I know, I need a ladder lift. You guys tell me that every time I get these up on the roof. So, I do have a full install video for this. I have a full install, actually, I have another one that I posted, ducted and non-ducted this time. So I have both of them. So this one is a non-ducted unit, which basically means that the only area this heat and air conditioning is coming out is that one 14 by 14 hole. Okay, so I'm putting the collar on and then all of these other pieces. I have full install videos on how to do this if you're interested in upgrading. I will say, every time I replace one of these units, it is worth it to get the one with the heat pump, okay? It's not that much more expensive to get the unit with the heat pump than it is just the one with the air conditioning. And that way, if you just want to turn the heat pump on instead of your furnace, you can do that. Absolutely love these units. And by the way, if you ever want to buy something from Rec Pro, in the the description of this video, I have a 5% off code. It's Fallen to Camp. It's a one-time code. It'll get you 5% off, and it's a great way to support me because they give me, I think it's like 2.5 or 3% back of whatever that is. So it's just a nice little addition to my passive income. So thank you guys for watching this and supporting me. It's great. It allows me to stay at home. Some of you don't know this, but I am a stay-at-home mom. This is not my full-time job. I kind of just do it whenever I have the opportunity, and I have 3 boys, which I homeschool. So you guys watching my videos and using my links and all of the things really allows me to be able to stay at home and still afford to homeschool and go on all the camping trips and do all the things with my husband and my kids. So you guys are really the rock stars in this scenario. So I really just appreciate everybody watching me and supporting me. And I know sometimes I go off the deep edge and you don't hear from me for months at a time, but that is just because it is really, really hard to work and edit at the same time. Anybody who does any type of content probably knows that. Okay, so back to this. I also have a full video on my channel on how to add tile to your RV or horse trailer. These are, I think these are glass tiles. I really like the glass ones because they're lightweight, but there is a special, it's like muscle bound mat that I use. I've actually used this in my house before for my kitchen. Love, love, love it. It's been probably 3 years since I've installed the ones in my kitchen, and it's been great. I've done trailers in 2020 where this is still holding and the grout's not cracking, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And for people who are like, oh, it adds too much weight. Okay, like it maybe adds an extra 30 pounds. Let's be realistic. Okay, maybe just don't bring 17 cheeseburgers into the camper. Instead, just have a nice backsplash. It's not really that serious, guys. I promise you. Okay, unless you're adding some significant weight, adding 20 or 30 pounds to your camper is not going to make or break you. I promise. So countertop time. If you can't see after my tangent, yeah, this is just me making countertops. I also have other videos on how to do this more in depth. My oscillating sander is one of the best tools that I use for countertops because I do put edge banding on my countertops. This is 3/4 inch birch with birch edge banding specifically around the edges to give it a nice look. And then lots of trimming and sanding and making sure that my holes are cut correctly, and then I can stain it. So my oscillating sander gives me the perfect edge because it needs to be perfectly flat and square in order for that edge banding to sit on there the right way. So this metal piece that you see me cutting right here, horse trailers have a gooseneck area. That's the part that attaches into the bed of the truck. And normally on the gooseneck area, there's a bed or a mattress that goes up there. Well, there's a joint from the straight part up to the bed part. And I've learned that if you put anything but a metal strip there, then it's going to come off. If you put anything that tack it in with nails, it's going to get hit when people are going up and down, up and down, up and down. So I like to use a metal trim piece right there, which is what I did. And then I like to countersink the screws into the metal trim piece. That way there's not like a rough spot where, your pant leg gets caught on it, or a shoelace, or whatever else might be caught on a rough spot trying to get up and down from the bed. So that's just, it's little things like that I feel like make the difference, because that would be something that would really bother me. Let's talk window treatments, because that is what I'm doing right now. So window treatments and a couple other different things. This is the cover for the door. So I'm going to go ahead and upholster that and pad that and put that back on the door. These are the window treatments that I have stained the corner pieces and upholstered the rest of it. So essentially I kind of want that colored look to match the cabinets, but also match the walls. And so I'm going to go ahead and install some new shades because the old ones were yucky and disgusting. Nobody wants to keep those. So we got new shades, we got reupholstered valances, and then again, I'm adding the new LED strips, the 12-volt LED strips to that. So new all around, it's looking fantastic. And because I have the countertops in, I can go ahead and remake the plumbing situation. I don't think I showed that for some reason. Maybe I did. No, I think it's just too cramped underneath there. Anyway, so these are really just final touches right here, making sure everything is in place. You see, I have all of my trim pieces that are going back in. This is actually going to be a sliding door, like you see, kind of just hooks onto a track. That's because I felt like the other door, one, was broken, and two, took up too much time. Also, do you like my metal cutter? I got that for free. I really, really like it when I get tools for free. Anyway, it's been one of my most used tools. So this is the shower. As you can see, it looks fantastic. Also has a closing door. I probably could have put something different here, but I really liked the closing door because it gave more space. And, ooh, yeah, there was a really big hawk right there. Sorry. Squirrel. Anyway, painting, finishing touches, countertops. As you can see, tight spaces. Got to make sure it's secured. Have a new propane stove that's going to go here because I know that she would still really like to cook. And the other one was just gross and didn't fit with the color scheme, the black color scheme of everything. This is my new sink right here. Add a little bit of silicone. Perfect. Stays. That was soap or actually it was Windex that I sprayed around it because it helps the silicone not get everywhere when I wipe it. Okay, that's the new plumbing situation. Did that. Gonna go ahead and waterproof and add the new shower head. Add the rest of this to the shower diverter, and then a new mattress. This is a short queen. I always use the same mattresses. They're really comfortable and they're kind of not super expensive, and so they're perfect for campers. And this is covering up that hole that I told you about from where the other switch was before. New LED strips going in. These are a nice, I think it's almost like a bluish, like a cool bluish color, just to give it a little bit of ambiance. And this is my favorite part of the whole thing. So I handpicked this scripture. Remember, I told you guys that Becky absolutely loves Jesus like I do. And she works really hard, and she also owns cattle and just does so much. So I handpicked this scripture for her. I also added a little bit of my touch to this. So for those of you who don't know, I made up my logo in 2020 before I actually was even a business. I kind of just was messing around with some things, and I came up with the 3 mountains. And it really never dawned on me, I guess probably until now, that that was really funny because of the Holy Trinity and just how God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit are just different entities and play such different roles in my life, even though they're all the same. It's just crazy. Anyway, didn't realize it was that number 3 until now, but added my own little touch to that. And I'm going to read the scripture for you at the end of it. And most of you probably already know this scripture by heart, but it's really great. Okay. This right here, this is another squirrel moment. I'm sorry. I wanted another step because it still felt like it wasn't enough. I wanted a step, and this also doubles as a footstool when you're sitting on the couch because the couch is kind of high. And I'm kind of messing around with this table right here, making sure it's in the right spot because I'm going to drill a hole and countersink this into the floor. And now it's time to move it. So this is really funny. I guess it must have been like, I don't know, something outside. But I've backed so many trailers into this one spot that it just, I don't know. It's like my brain just does its own thing and I don't even have to worry about it anymore. But this is when it starts getting serious, is when I can move it out of my renovation spot and when I can start cleaning. So this is cleaning, this is staging. Remember I told you my friend, she owns cattle. It's very important to her. And so I wanted this to be like a Western theme. And I think this went well with the color scheme because she is, obviously horses and just all the things too. And so I want this to be more than just a space where she gets to haul animals. So anyway, this is the end result. Absolutely incredible from where I started to where this ended up. The colors just mesh so well together, and the little pop of greenery and my logo right there. And it's cozy, it's functional. It's just great. And this is my scripture on the wall right here. I bought this from a girl on Instagram. Her Instagram is Mulberry Market Designs, and it was just incredible. So the scripture is Psalm 23. It says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever." I just want to say thank you guys again for watching, especially until the end. You guys mean more to me than you realize. I hope you guys have a great day.